quick test. What did you have for breakfast 2 Wednesdays ago? Can't remember? Now tell me about your past life. Sounds impossible, right? But here's what neuroscience just revealed. Your inability to remember last month might be the exact same mechanism preventing you from remembering your last lifetime. And the evidence for reincarnation isn't spiritual anymore. It's scientific, and it's overwhelming. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you documented cases that science cannot explain, the neuroscience of why we forget, and the one piece of evidence that even skeptics can't dismiss. By the end, you'll question everything you thought you knew about consciousness. Let me be clear up front. I'm not here to convert you to any religion or spiritual belief. I'm here to show you the evidence, and the evidence is stacking up in ways that are impossible to ignore. We're going to cover 3 things. First, the neuroscience of memory and why your brain is literally designed to forget. Second, documented cases of children with verifiable memories of past lives that researchers have investigated for over 60 years. And third, the quantum physics discoveries that are making reincarnation not just possible, but likely. And we're going to start with something you experience every single day: forgetting. Here's what's wild. You've lived roughly 10,000 days if you're in your late 20s. That's 240,000 hours, 14 million minutes. And if I asked you to tell me about even 1% of those moments, you couldn't. Most of your life is already gone from your memory, erased as if it never happened. So the question isn't, why can't we remember past lives? The question is, why do we think memory is even reliable in this life? Your brain is a forgetting machine, and once you understand why, reincarnation stops sounding crazy and starts sounding inevitable. Let's start with a fact that will shake you. Most of your memories are false. Not sort of false, completely fabricated by your brain. Here's how it works. Every time you recall a memory, your brain doesn't pull up a video file. It reconstructs the memory from fragments. And every time you reconstruct it, you change it slightly, add new details, remove inconvenient ones, merge multiple events into one. There's a famous study where researchers convinced people they were once lost in a shopping mall as a child. These people had detailed emotional memories of this event. The problem? It never happened. Their brains created entirely false memories that felt 100% real. Now here's the question. If your brain can create false memories of this lifetime, how would you ever know if a memory was from a past life or just a reconstruction? You wouldn't. Your memory system can't tell the difference between real and imagined. But here's what's even more important. Your brain is designed to forget. And this isn't a bug, it's a feature. Your hippocampus, the part of your brain that processes memories, has limited capacity. If you remembered everything, you'd be paralyzed by information overload. So your brain has a filtering system. It keeps what it deems important and deletes the rest. But here's what neuroscience discovered. The most aggressive deletion happens during 2 specific times. The first is during sleep, when your brain consolidates important memories and purges the noise. The second is during birth, infantile amnesia, the fact that you can't remember. Being a baby isn't because babies don't form memories, they do. Brain scans prove it, you just can't access them anymore. Because the hippocampus undergoes massive restructuring in your first few years of life. Your early memories are overwritten, erased, as if they never existed. Now here's where it gets interesting. If your brain erases memories from this life during normal development, what would happen to memories from a previous life? Think about it. If you reincarnate, if consciousness transfers to a new body, those memories would have to pass through the same neurological bottleneck. The same hippocampus that erases your toddler memories. The same filtering system that deletes last Tuesday. But here's the key. Sometimes the system glitches. Sometimes fragments slip through. And when they do, we get something that science has been studying for 60 years. Children with detailed, verifiable memories of lives they never lived. And the cases aren't rare. They're documented, they're investigated, and they're impossible to explain without reincarnation. In 1961, a psychiatrist named Dr. Ian Stevenson started investigating something unusual. Children, usually between ages 2 and 5, who spontaneously talked about when they were someone else. Most parents dismissed it, but Stevenson didn't. He spent 40 years documenting over 3,000 cases. He traveled to villages in India, Lebanon, Sri Lanka, Turkey, and the United States. He interviewed children. He verified their claims. He investigated the people they claimed to be. And what he found was disturbing. These children knew things they couldn't possibly know. Names, addresses, family members, cause of death, intimate details that were never publicized. Details that could only be known by the person who lived that life. And here's what makes it impossible to dismiss. Stevenson didn't just collect stories. He verified them. He found the families of the deceased. He checked birth and death records. He interviewed witnesses. And in case after case, the children's memories matched reality. Let me give you one case. A boy in Lebanon named Nazi al-Danaf. At age 2, he started having nightmares. He would wake up screaming, talking about being shot. He told his parents his real name was Fuad, and he lived in a different village. His parents thought it was just a child's imagination, but Nazi kept insisting. He described his house. He named his wife and children. He described how he was shot by neighbors over a family dispute. His parents eventually took him to the village he described. When they arrived, Nazi, still only 3 years old, walked directly to a specific house. He identified family members by name. He described rooms in the house that had since been renovated. He knew details about the shooting that only Fuad's family knew. The researchers verified everything. Birth records, death records, witness testimonies. Every detail matched. Nazi described a life he never lived, a death he never experienced, in a place he'd never been. Coincidence? Skeptics said yes, until they realized Nazi had a birthmark on his chest, exactly where Fuad was shot. This is where it gets undeniable. Dr. Stevenson documented hundreds of cases where children had birthmarks or birth defects that corresponded to wounds from their claimed past life. A child in India with a malformed hand who remembered being a man, who lost his fingers in a farming accident. Medical records confirmed the amputation matched perfectly. A child in Myanmar with a birthmark on his head who remembered being shot there. They found the deceased person. Autopsy records showed a bullet entry wound in the exact location. A child in Turkey born with a severely deformed ear who remembered being killed with a shotgun blast to the head. They found the person he claimed to be. Medical records confirmed the ear was destroyed in the shooting. These aren't stories. These are documented medical cases with photographs, autopsy reports, and witness verification. Your brain can't fabricate a birthmark. Your imagination can't create a physical deformity. But consciousness, transferring from one body to another, that could. Now let me give you a case that's harder to dismiss, because it happened in the United States, where past life beliefs aren't culturally common. James Leininger was 2 years old when he started having violent nightmares about being trapped in a plane crash, surrounded by fire. He would scream, "Plane on fire! Little man can't get out." His parents thought it was just nightmares, but James started talking about specifics. He said his name was James, too, James Houston. He said he flew from a ship called Natoma. He said he was shot down by the Japanese at Iwo Jima. He drew pictures of planes with specific markings. His parents researched. They found USS Natoma Bay, a real aircraft carrier from World War II. They found records of a pilot named James Houston who was shot down at Iwo Jima. They contacted his surviving sister. She confirmed details James couldn't possibly know, including the names of other pilots. James mentioned the type of plane he flew, and even a nickname only the squadron used. James was 2 years old. He'd never been exposed to World War II history. His parents weren't military. There were no books, no movies, no conversations about Iwo Jima in his house. Yet he knew intimate details of a combat mission from 1945. The skeptics tried to explain it away, but they couldn't. Explain how a toddler knew the name of a ship that wasn't in any popular database, or the names of pilots whose records were buried in military archives. So if reincarnation is real, why don't we all remember? Why is it mostly young children? And why do their memories fade as they get older? The answer is brutal and beautiful. Your brain is designed to forget so you can function in this life. Imagine if you remembered every life you'd ever lived. Every death, every loss, every identity. You'd be psychologically shattered. You couldn't form a coherent sense of self. You'd be paralyzed by the weight of thousands of years of experience. So consciousness does something elegant. It wipes the slate almost clean. Gives you just enough continuity to carry lessons forward. Personality traits, phobias, talents you shouldn't have. But removes the explicit memories so you can start fresh. And the biological mechanism for this is birth itself. The trauma of birth, the neurological restructuring of the infant brain, the formation of the ego, all of this acts as a memory reset button. But young children, especially between ages 2 and 5, haven't fully developed that ego yet. They haven't fully integrated into this life the boundary between their past life, consciousness, and their current life. consciousness is still thin.
That's why they say things like, when I was big.
Or before I was in mommy's tummy. They're accessing fragments that haven't been overwritten yet. But by age 6 or 7, the brain's prefrontal cortex develops. The ego solidifies. The identity of this life becomes dominant, and the past life memories get buried under layers of new experience. They don't disappear, they just become inaccessible. It's the exact same mechanism that makes you forget your dreams 5 minutes after waking up, or forget what you did 2 Wednesdays ago. Your brain prioritizes current survival over historical data. It's not that the information isn't there, it's that you can't access it anymore. And here's where quantum physics enters the conversation. For the last 50 years, physicists have been discovering something bizarre about consciousness. It might not be produced by your brain. It might be transmitted through it. Your brain might be more like a radio receiver than a generator. And if that's true, if consciousness exists independently of your physical body, then death isn't the end. It's just a change of frequency, a new receiver, a new life. This isn't spiritual speculation anymore. This is serious physicists like Roger Penrose suggesting that consciousness might be a quantum phenomenon that exists outside of space and time, that your brain collapses quantum states to create your subjective experience. And when your brain dies, that quantum information doesn't disappear. It returns to the field and eventually re-emerges in a new form. So what does this mean for your life right now? First, your phobias might not be irrational. That fear of water, heights, fire, or confined spaces, it might be cellular memory from how you died last time. Researchers found that children who remember violent deaths often have phobias related to that death. The boy who remembered drowning is terrified of water. The girl who remembered a fire is terrified of flames. These aren't learned behaviors. They're carried forward. Second, your unexplainable talents might be skills you've refined over multiple lifetimes. Child prodigies who play piano at age 3 or speak languages they've never been taught. Maybe they're not miracles. Maybe they're just remembering. Third, the people in your life might not be coincidences. Ever meet someone and feel like you've known them forever? That instant recognition, that inexplicable bond, maybe you have known them. Maybe you've found each other again. And fourth, death isn't the end. It's a transition, a reset, a chance to start again with new lessons, new challenges, new opportunities for growth. But here's what I think is the most important implication. If reincarnation is real, then every action you take has consequences beyond this lifetime. Every lesson you avoid learning now, you'll have to learn later. Every pattern you refuse to break will follow you. That relationship you keep repeating, that self-sabotage pattern, that fear you won't face, it doesn't end when you die. You carry it forward. You come back to face it again and again until you finally break through. Reincarnation isn't a comforting fairy tale about living forever. It's a brutal accountability system. You can't escape yourself. You can only evolve. And the children who remember, they're not special. They're not chosen. They're just the ones whose memories slipped through the reset. They're proof that all of us are travelers. All of us are carrying forward more than we realize. All of us are older than we know. So let's bring it back. The evidence for reincarnation? 1. Your brain is designed to forget. The same mechanism that erases your childhood erases your past lives. This explains why we don't all remember. 2. Thousands of documented cases of children with verifiable memories of past lives. Details they couldn't know. Birthmarks that match fatal wounds. Information that's been independently verified by researchers. 3. Quantum physics suggesting consciousness exists independently of the brain. If consciousness isn't produced by neurons, death doesn't destroy it. The skeptics will say it's all coincidence. Implanted memories, cultural contamination. But they can't explain the birthmarks. They can't explain the 3-year-olds who navigate to houses they've never seen. They can't explain the intimate details that were never publicized. Here's what I want you to sit with. If you can't remember last Tuesday, why would you expect to remember your last lifetime? Your inability to recall isn't evidence against reincarnation. It's evidence for how memory actually works. You've forgotten 99.9% of this life, but it still happened. It still shaped you. It still made you who you are. Maybe your past lives are the same. Forgotten but formative. Erased but essential. Gone from your conscious memory but encoded in your fears. Your talents, your unexplainable connections, your recurring patterns. Maybe you're not a body that has consciousness. Maybe you're consciousness that has a body. And this isn't your first time wearing one. I can't prove reincarnation to you. No one can. But I can show you the evidence and let you decide. And if even 1% of you is wondering, what if this is real? That's enough. because it changes everything. Who were you before this? Who will you be next? And more importantly, who are you becoming right now? Because that's what you're taking with you. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual truth, explained through validated scientific evidence. See you next time. Life is just a game. Enjoy every moment.